Okie dokie, good morning. I've got a couple of brutal business truths for personal trainers today, so we'll just jump straight into it. Now, firstly, you should sell to rich people. I think so often, lots of personal trainers, they end up in this middle area, and it's the middle that kills you. Selling to rich people until you should sell to as few rich people as possible until you can start scaling your business, which enables you to then sell to everyone / poor people. And obviously, I use the word poor just to be hyperbolic. I don't really mean poor. I just mean people who aren't rich. As I said, the middle is really where people get stuck. And the middle, you notice how that's where most personal trainers land. Most personal trainers land somewhere within the $100 to $250 per hour slot. But if you charge $5,000 an hour, all of a sudden you're differentiated just by that alone. And obviously you have to sell to that clientele, but there are people out there. If you spend enough time shaking hands with people, as I do, you realize that there's plenty of people who are willing to spend $5,000 an hour on a service that delivers. Now, obviously, it's also way easier to sell to a fewer people. Selling a lot of something is hard. Like, you have to convince a lot more people. So you're actually making your life significantly easier by selling to wealthy people. A lot, when you sell a lot, when you have to sell volume, you're also having to rely on efficiencies. If you look at Walmart, for example, that business works and worked and still works today because of its what do you call it, transportation structure. It was absolute genius. And but you don't start off with that. You start off, again, so Tesla's a great example of this. Tesla started off by selling the Roadster. This is a $250,000 car sold exclusively to people in LA, pretty much. And people who wanted to feel green and have a sports car and feel like they were part of the future. And then Musk sold a $150,000 car. And then eventually got to the Model Y, where it was this product for everyone. So you start off, it's a top-down structure when it comes to selling. It also means that you're not competing against everyone else. So again, as I spoke about earlier, in that middle area is where personal trainers get stuck. And if you are going to the extremities, the very cheap and the very poor, but in this case, the very cheap and the very expensive, then you are naturally differentiating yourself. And when you are selling to rich people, you also have inefficiencies naturally, because you don't have the capacity to be efficient. And yet those inefficiencies don't deter you from making money. Whereas if you try and sell to a lot of people without the efficiencies, you don't make a dime. You also, with selling to rich people, selling personal trainers to rich people specifically, you get fantastic referrals. Rich people know other rich people, and you can really build a portfolio of people who are willing to spend this money. And I would say that these people like to work with, it's a bit of an exclusive club. Your average person may go out and get a personal trainer from a whole range of personal trainers, but a rich person will only get a personal trainer from another rich person. They like to keep things insular. Second brutal business truth for you. Now, personal training is not a numbers game. I know, I'm breaking the rules there. I think the whole idea of things being a numbers game, business being a numbers game, is institutionalized and lazy. It's so tempting to paper over the cracks of a bad business model, a bad sales call, a bad funnel, a bad way of positioning yourself by just getting more volume. The best example of this is Instagram. Trainers looking to just get more and more followers because they think that with more followers, they'll get more DMs, and with more DMs, they'll get more clients. And that does work, but just imagine how much better it would work if you had a really great system from day one that enabled you to actually achieve your ceiling. So I'm not saying that volume doesn't work. What I am saying is that volume works a lot better once you fix and fixate and learn how to have a strong foundation for your business. Now, the best example of this is with DMs, and that actually takes me to the next point, which is make things easy. Now, we do a lot of work here to do with friction, and friction is all about the removal of hurdles getting in the way of someone completing a task. So in this example, that is getting someone who's interested in your coaching through to buying your coaching. Now, at the moment, there are an inexcusable number of steps that personal trainers put in the way of clients. I know because I went undercover as a client to a whole host of personal trainers. It was 200 in total. And there was no one way. That was the first thing. But secondly, no one got it. No one made my life easy. Some made it easier, but a lot of them actually made it almost, obviously it's not deliberate, but they made life very difficult for the client, which obviously makes it very difficult for them as a coach. Now, the biggest companies in the world, they focus massively on the removal of friction, because if you can reduce the time with which someone is interested to them spending money, guess what? Sales go up. And it's absolutely no different for personal training. So for trainers, I've got 3 little things here for you. I think firstly, put your prices up front. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to have them in your bio, but maybe have them in your response to an intro message. Have them up front, and it's because it completely removes the elephant in the room when it comes to having an intro call. It builds trust, it builds authenticity. So you could just say, thank you very much for your message, Bob. Just so you know, my coaching is this, this, and this, and it costs this per month, or it costs this per session, depending on whatever it is. That takes me to the next point: reduce cognitive load. Now, again, this is thinking in terms of behavioral design and product design. You want to give as fewer options as possible to the client. Now, I'm dyslexic, so I'm a very good case in this. When if I go to a restaurant and there's a million things on the menu, I don't know what to choose. And the reason why I'm a good choice is because the extremities highlight the issue. Whereas if the menu had 5 things on it, guess what? It's easy. I know what I want to go back, I want to tell my friends about it, so on and so forth. Exactly the same thing with coaching. Coaches, again, people have a bias to think that more is better, and it's not. Have 1, maybe 2 options for the coaching, and that's it. You do not need to go crazy. Just have the offer and a couple of clear benefits, a couple of clear benefits tied to that specific thing, and that'll be nice and clear, and people will feel like they know what they're getting, and that just makes their life easier. And finally, this is a pretty specific one, but don't send any forms or any links or anything like that until you get on a call with the client. Obviously, you need to send a link for them to have a call, but reduce the number of tasks that you ask the client to do before you speak to them. Again, from that research, I found that trainers were asking, so if you imagine, again, we'll just use an upside down pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, or the bottom, top of the pyramid, you want the client to do the tasks, or the prospect at this period of time, the prospect to do the tasks that are the easiest, lowest friction thing for them to do. And it gets a bit more friction each time. And the things right at the bottom are things like forms, so you know a bit about them and stuff like that. That stuff comes at the end. So really what I'm saying here is you have to order things correctly so that you're not putting barriers in the way that aren't that these things are vital. They are important, of course they are. But don't let them get in the way of ordering them in the correct process. So that's it. So we've got make things easy. It's not a numbers game. And sell to the rich. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. We are going to work harder on our YouTube content going forward. Yeah, I've been a little bit slack on it as of late, but we have a new series in the pipeline. But yeah, we look forward to showing you, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.